I've been using Notion as a tool for filmmaking for about a year and a half now. I started off using it originally just for editing projects. I had about 3 different projects I was editing at once, and I needed a place just to put everything together where I could see all the different scenes in the different films and my different notes and sort everything out. And then a few months later I was writing a screenplay and I decided to also use Notion to help form that. And I think Notion works really well for filmmaking. There's a lot of spreadsheets and storyboards and all this stuff that I'm going to show this in the video, but Notion does all those things really well. And surprisingly, there are very little templates to do with filmmaking online. There's a lot of like YouTuber make a video templates, but very little stuff about writing scripts or really about editing, call sheets. Like all this stuff is just spreadsheets, and that's what Notion does the best. So I decided to put together a template. This is sort of the homepage here. I've sort of structured everything in this way of starting at the beginning of a film, then going to writing a script, and then the shooting, the editing, and then the release. So I'm gonna start off today just talking about these first 2, ideas and script. This is basically idea generation, and then this is scene structure. I'm going to show what all this different stuff does. And then this is production, which is all call sheets and budget and shot lists and loads and loads and loads of stuff in there. And then editing, which is sort of what I actually started off with, was using Notion as a database for your footage and notes, and sort of having a place outside of the editing program where you can look at stuff. And then release, I'm going to do a little stuff about festivals and stuff. I'm not too sure if these videos are being designed for someone who's really familiar with Notion, who may be looking to get into filmmaking, or someone who comes from a filmmaking background who's this their first time using Notion. So I'm going to go over the basics of both. Sometimes there might be stuff that you can skip over, but I do think it's worth a while actually seeing someone use this template rather than just jump in, because there's a lot of different stuff going on here. This is the home page, so when you download this, the first thing you're going to see, basically just to show you the customizability of Notion. These images here, these 2 and these last 2 were taken by my friend Barra O'Connor. This middle one was taken by Andrew, so I'll link both of their stuff on the actual template and also in the description. So I have this page currently locked. I can unlock this page, and I go property. If I go page cover, I've made an alternate version of this homepage just using photos of Barra, and so it's similarly showing that process. But that just shows that you can completely customize everything once you download this template. This is all just a starting point to then go and do all your own stuff. And underneath here I have a film projects database, but I'll go into that later. So we click onto here and we open this full, then we can see our lovely ideas page. So this is the page. The reason why I have this photo as the bus is because this is the page where something comes to you while you're on the bus and you're like, oh, I should write that down. So down here at the bottom we have just ideas. So these are all, also thanks to John for supplying some of these ideas, because I needed a bunch of ideas to fill this template and I didn't want to put it my own. And so I came up with some discarded ideas and I got some of John's ones and I sort of filled up this area. But as you can see on each of these pages, I have an image, the title, and then a log line. So obviously they're not necessarily going to come to you with all this stuff. So if you just have a very, very basic thing of, oh, because I'm typing at a keyboard warrior. And then we go on here and we can add a log line here. A keyboard comes to life and fights off pianos. It's a twist. It's a piano keyboard. And we can change the genre here to probably is an action movie. And then yeah, our status, I'll get into that, but currently that's idea. And then we can click up here, we can click add cover. And it's going to give us a random image. We can click change cover, and then Unsplash is just a bunch of stock photos they have built in here. So I can type in keyboard. I'm getting a bunch. I want to actually see if I can get piano keyboard. There we go. So, and there we go. Now we have this idea added to this board. I have this board currently sorted by genre, but you could very easily do something different. In my own database, I have that sorted by budget. So I have, like, over on the left, I have ideas that could reasonably be shot for no money, and then a little bit more money, and then the big, massive movies that I will never make are over there. And then up here, I just have these other sections for things that are not necessarily full ideas. This really depends on whichever way ideas tend to come for you is what you can set up here. So I often will see people in public or see people in work and I'll go, oh, that's a good character for a film, and I'll do a little new and I'll go Guy. So this would always be my thing, is I'd be on the bus and I'd look out the window and I'd see somebody interesting and then I'd add it to my version of this list. So I'd go motorbike guy. There would be more exciting stuff. This is the problem. This is why I need this, so I can capture the ideas while they come. Then I have just miscellaneous for just any little things. Maybe if I just have a title or I just have a little moment in something. And then dialogue ideas is similarly, if I hear something in real life that I go, oh, that's good, I'll write that down there. And obviously when you're collecting this stuff, 90% of it's going to be terrible, but it's nice to have a place to go. This page is basically, as you've probably guessed, it's that notebook you're carrying around in your pocket. I'm not necessarily pitching this as an alternative to a physical notebook, but maybe this is where at the end of the week you go through your physical notebook and you go on here and you write down your ideas. Now we're going to get to what do we do when we want to work on one of these ideas. So I'll actually bring this back down here. So let's say we're looking here at this film, No Christmas, a tired retail worker wakes up in a world where Christmas doesn't exist. So this film, it's basically the movie Yesterday, but if it was about Christmas instead and it was a Christmas movie. So what we can do is, when we want to work on this, we can actually drag it and we can bring it up here. Sort of put it up here. I'm going to delete this. And now we sort of have it up here in our focus. So these are the ideas. This section down here might get really, really big and long if you have loads and loads of different stuff. We open this page and it's empty. But this film now has a page basically. So what we can do is, in this template, I've added more templates, sort of. This is a template button. And so if we hit this, it's going to add a new beat sheet. It's going to bring us up now. It's going to bring us to it, but we don't actually want to look at it. But this is basically just super basic Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, which is what I like for a beat sheet. If you don't know what a beat sheet is, I will leave a link. Doomed Productions recently did a video about it, which I thought was quite good. But this is basically any screenplay book or screenplay class. Early on, you'll talk about beat sheets. So what I've also got down here is add a new beat sheet, save the cat. And so this is, I don't personally really like this structure, but basically I'm showing that if there is a structure that you really like the hero's journey or the story circle or story shapes or any of those different types of structures that sometimes people like to use to help create their stories, you can create you can edit this template and put in your own. So I'm going to get up the save the cat one I have here. And so this is a beat sheet based off of that book. It's got all his stuff, the fun and games in the second act, and then the Act 3 finale and the Dark Night of the Soul. I like that. But yeah, if you want to build something off of something more structured, you can obviously change that structure. And then what we can do with these beat sheets is, when we have them, we can bring them onto our page. I'm going to open this. I'm going to open our page here. And then I'm going to, or actually no, I don't need to do that yet. I'm going to turn into heading tree. And then, well, we can have that there. And then as you can see, we now have that on this page. So now we can go, okay, Act 1, Stacy is in work, busy Christmas Day. She's like, this sucks. I wish Christmas didn't exist. And so on and so on. Act 2 then would be, she wakes up and there is no Christmas. And yeah, we can continue on and have our beats. But then what I think, this is one of the first things I'm like, this is why I much prefer writing in Notion to all other writing programs, is Notion has a built-in, every single piece of text is its own little item. And so what that means is you can grab anything and move it, which you cannot do in other things. And after writing in Notion a while, whenever I'm in any other program, I'm always trying to do this and it drives me crazy because it just becomes, especially creatively, it becomes such a big part of wanting to go, oh, I want to move this here. Or, you know, you can go, okay, actually this is going to happen in the third act and the first two acts are going to be set in the Christmas world or whatever. And you can really, being able to move things around like this is amazing. And I'm going to show how it can get even better. So I think that's everything with this first page. But yeah, the reason why I have the beat sheet on this page is because for me, that's one of those things that if I have an idea and I just want to play around with it, I'll sometimes start doing little scenes and just sort of getting a general sense for the structure of the thing. If I was actually seriously planning on, okay, I'm going to write this screenplay start to finish, then we would bring it into the next section. So I'm going to show how we'd actually do that. So on this page here, as you can see the status, so it got upgraded to beat sheet there. And then if I want to bring it to the next one, I click on structure. I click structure, I get rid of beat sheet. And now it's not here anymore. Now it is on our script page. So let's have a look at this. So this is our lovely script page. Over here we've got a nice quote from John le Carre. You can change that to any sort of filmmaking quote you want. I just sort of wanted to show off that you could do that sort of thing as well. So here I have sort of another one of these databases showing, basically if I click filter here, it'll say status contains structure, spit draft, first draft, further drafts. So that means if the status on any of these things here, so because the status is structure, it's now showing up here and it's no longer showing up on that beat sheet page, because on the beat sheet page we had a different filter. And then I have some more templates built in here, and this is where we're going to get into some more things. I'm going to quickly go over this page before going into how it works. So we've got templates here in the middle, which you could have a load more of them. And then over here, I have screenwriting resources. And so this is sort of showing that the great thing about Notion is you can have your notes in the same place that you have your actual plan. So on my personal page, I've got notes from filmmaking classes here. That's mostly what I got there. Is any class we did on screenwriting that where there was something that I particularly liked, I'll put there, or videos. I do have this in my own page. This is a really good video, I think, the Toy Story 3 one. And then this is just a random page. So you can write notes like this within Notion, or you can obviously link to stuff as well, like I have with that video. What I really want to get into is so I'll show you this one first, which this is a bit of an explanation. So I needed a film that I knew the structure of to do quickly when I was making this. And I was like, oh, I really know the structure of the 10-minute long short Home Base because I've watched it hundreds of times. So I went with that. You can watch that film if you want. It's not like it has a particularly good structure or anything. It's just because I knew it that I did it. So let's have a look at this. So as you can see, I have the beat sheet here. Act 1, 3 acts there, and then we've got it built into our structure, which so we have loads more stuff. So we've got characters here. Hold on, I want to change this to scene view. So I've got my 3 characters here. I've got my locations, and then I have, which this to me is the reason why I think you should be structuring your screenplays in Notion, because of this view, which just, it really works for my head. I find it so much easier to look at this than a bunch of bullet points in a doc file. Because what I basically have here is index cards, which if you go into any screenwriting thing, everyone loves index cards. And index cards are great, but for me, the best digital version of index cards, I think, is this format on Notion. I know a bunch of screenwriting programs have tried to build in their own version of index cards. I know Celtax definitely has one, but I found they're all really awkward, and I just love the way you can have relations between. So obviously I have my characters here, and then I'll talk a little bit about this character one. I'm going to go into all this, but basically my character ones, I also have character profiles. This view really, really works for me. And so similarly, I can move these around. If I want to look at it this way, I can also just look at it just in my beats like here, or I can go, okay, I just want to see that little short description of each one, or I can go, okay, I want to just see the character and location. There's so many different ways that you can look at your structure, which is really important creatively, I think, to be able to see everything from all these different angles. So I'm going to show how you'd actually set up a structure like the one we just saw, and I guess we'll do this No Christmas one. So we're going to start off making and add scenes. Actually, we'll make all 3 of these. Okay, so once we've made all 3 of these, we're going to bring them all onto our film. If you just drag something onto a gallery view, it'll now show up on that page. We're going to turn this into a toggle list, and then we're going to put all that in there because we don't want to see that for a second. Okay. Oh, and that one too. So this is our scenes. We're going to look at this one first. We're going to say turn into inline. All right. So currently we don't have anything in here. What we can do here is actually, we can delete this and delete this and get this. And now I can actually drag this directly into my beat sheet, and now they're all there. And so now I can start going, okay, Stacy in work and busy Christmas shop. That's our opening scene of our film. So then once we have that, we can then look, which I like this, the short description thing. It's got a limit on how much it'll actually show there. So if I kept writing and I said, she is upset, she is angry, another character, and then we go back onto this page, it's cut it off there. And so that's one of the reasons why people recommend using index cards, is because you're trying to write everything really condensedly and just trying to get to the bare beat of that scene. And so this actually has a built-in limit on how much you can write as your short description. But then obviously if you have loads more to say about that scene, you can put it in on the actual page. So here I can do /bullet list. I'm going to get these. I always like writing in bullet lists in Notion. Which that's our two little bits out there. So then if we're happy with that, maybe we go, okay, now we want to start adding in characters and locations. So, oh, actually, also I forgot, we've got an act thing here. So we can say, okay, act one. This is actually act 2, and that's act 1. And we want to move that to the top there. And then our characters. So now we need to do a little bit of a complicated thing. If you're familiar with Notion, this is all fine. But if you're a first timer, one of the things you're probably going to have to do at this point is start putting in something at the beginning of these. So I'm going to turn this into inline, and I'm also going to turn, then we're going to rename these NC. So it's just NC No Christmas. It's just if you're working on a bunch of stuff at once, you're going to have a bunch of scenes databases, so it's going to be easier to keep track of them if you have some sort of signifier. So characters. So up here, so once we have that done, then we can go to our characters column here and we can turn it into a relation. Select database, and then I'm going to put in NC, and then it's just going to show us these three. And then I want this to be characters, create relation, and location. I'm going to say relation, and NC, locations. Beautiful. And now what we can do is we can go, okay, characters, Stacy. And obviously there hasn't already been a Stacy character created, so we're going to create a new page called Stacy. But then in this second scene, we know it's still Stacy, so we're going to add Stacy again. This third scene is also going to have Stacy, but it's also got a new character, the Christmas Wizard. And then location-wise, it's going to be retail store. Now, NC characters is currently empty because I've added a little page here called main characters versus all characters. Because obviously if you're writing a full-length screenplay, there's going to be so many different characters. So I'm going to turn that off. So there they are there. So we're going to change importance to main. The Christmas Wizard's probably a main character in this film. He probably comes back. And then obviously we can already see all the different scenes that these characters are in. So then if we switch back to main characters, now we have this view of them. And so now if we want to, we can go, okay, add cover. We're going to find a picture to represent this character. I'm just going to look for a retail store employee. This might be the character. She doesn't look too happy to be there. She looks pretty, she looks pretty angry. And the Christmas Wizard. Let's see if we can get a picture for Christmas Wizard. Not too much is coming up for Christmas Wizard. I might get a picture of, this is a weird take, but hold on, I'm going to get a picture of Gonzo here. Beautiful. But anyway, that's just to show you that you can also link in images if they don't have what you want on Unsplash. So now we've got our two main characters there. And if let's say we want to make this smaller, actually at this point, I'd probably, up on the top right here, you can click this and do full width. So you can see, you probably want to do that at this point. And then locations, you can also obviously add images to them. But one of the other things I've built in here actually is, if we click onto one of these characters here, I've added in a template to show how you can also use templates for your character profiles. So the template I've added in here is one, it was originally created by Film Crit Hulk, but I saw it in a video by Rocket Jump. I'll link that below, I instantly went, oh, this is great. I love this. And I had it sticky to my wall for a little while. Lego. Ooh. And then eventually I had it saved on my computer, and then when I started using Notion, I brought it in. If you want to learn how to use it, they go to it in the video, but I've got it all here in this template. And so a lot of people, when they're doing character profiles, they might do like height and loads of specific questions, but this one works a lot perfectly for me. But if you have a template that you really like for characters, you can bring it in and you can make it your automatic template for characters too, and similarly go through and explore them like that. Because now we can go onto this view and we can start going, okay, let's start planning out these scenes, and we can click on each one and go, okay. We can start really planning out each of these scenes as their own separate little thing, while also being able to then go back to this view and see everything, which I really love. I've added another view in here. This is something specifically for me, but I remember a long time ago in reading about index cards, there was this idea of on each index card you show the conflict at the beginning of the scene and the conflict at the end of the scene, because ideally if it's a good scene, that conflict will have changed. So I've built that into here of we can go, okay, start of the scene, Stacy is annoyed at her job, that's the conflict, but then something happens and then she realizes no, Stacy is pissed off instead at the very idea of Christmas because she hears some singing or something, I don't know. And then if we want to work on this, maybe there's some problems in our script and we want to try and make sure each of those scenes are working in that way, we can turn that on and add it here. But that's just one of those tricks I like. This is just another way to show that if there's a specific trick or something to do with screenwriting, I really think Notion is so adaptable that there's probably a way to build it into the system so you can create your own view. So to create those views, just quickly, you go up here and you click on add a view, and then you can decide what sort of view it is. Like for example, if you're writing a script and it's a time travel script and you want to be able to view your story from the character's perspective, but then also to make sure everything works together, you also want to view it from a timeline perspective, you could very easily add a date property here. And then you could put on what date everything's happening. Okay, so this scene's on this day, this scene's on this day, and then you'd be able to create a view of just that timeline on a calendar view, or in the order of the actual chronological events of the film, rather than just your thing. Like I'm sure at some point Nolan had to do that with Tenet, right? I think that's it for these first 2 pages. My plan is, so I'll say one more thing. As you can see, No Christmas has now been added to the bottom here, because on this main film projects page, I've got a filter saying status does not contain idea. There's probably a bunch more different templates I could add to these first 2, and I would love ideas for different stuff, but it's all super easy to build yourself, so it's really easy to add a new template the way I've done it there. I think that's everything for those first 2 templates. I'm planning on doing a video next on the production one. I've already started on a lot of those templates, and then after that I'm going to do one video on these 2. The editing templates I've been using for a year now basically. It's very similar to the scenes one, as you can imagine, but instead you've got shots. But at the moment, if you click onto any of these, they're just going to be empty, and basically my plan is, this is a live page, so as I update it, the link in the description will live update because it's always linking to the same thing. If you want to download this, it's in the description. Give it a go. Yeah, I think that's really it. If there's any questions, please let me know. Lego.